Well, thank you very much, and thanks to the Postal Service for putting together this great event this afternoon, and thank you all very much for being here. I want to just say a couple things about Janet that most people probably know, but things that mean a lot to me. I first met Janet in the early 1990s when I was honored to be able to represent Vallejo in the California State Senate. And we met really early on, and we hit it off. I can't imagine it was much more than the fact that both of us are Italian. And I grew up in the same food that she cooked so well. But I was just impressed with everything she did. And she loved Vallejo, and she loved the people of Vallejo, and it really showed. And you heard already the countless lives that she influenced and the lives that she's changed through the money that she's raised and the support she's provided, both for educational purposes, the work she's done for Alzheimer's. It was just incredibly important. A little funny note, a lot of you here today know that one of my passions on the private side is I collect old wooden duck decoys. And there's a book about old California wooden duck decoys that has a picture in it of the Capella decoy, Janet's dad. Now, it's never been determined if he really carved it, but it was in his hunting rig, and whomever found it attributed it to her dad. And so naturally, right away, I asked her, I said, "Hey, Janet, you got any more of those duck decoys?" And she didn't, but every time I saw her, we'd say hello, and she'd say, "You know, I'm still got my eye out for one of those decoys." And she just cared about people, and she cared enough to do as much as she could to help people. She was very smart. She was very politically astute. And if there's anybody here who doesn't think she was a politician, you're gravely mistaken. And I was reminded when I got here today by Terry Cortola of something that happened early on. You remember when Terry ran for the state legislature? I didn't support him. And it wasn't because he wouldn't have been a great member of the assembly. It wasn't because I didn't like him. It was because I had recruited someone else in that race before Terry expressed an interest. So I was with someone else. And Terry and I discussed that. He knew it. Janet wasn't taking that sitting down. Terry reminded me how he got a call from her one day and said, "Hey, ride up with me to St. Helena. We're going up to a Sons of Italy event up there, my lodge." They get there, and before they do anything else, Janet introduces Terry to my mother and says, "He's running for the assembly. Will you endorse him?" My mother said, "You bet. I'm all in." So she was very, very crafty, and I think I think that skill had a lot to do with everything she was able to deliver for Vallejo and the people of Vallejo. You know, this all came about, you heard, because of Verna. And I got a call from Aaron because you called Aaron. And Aaron called me and said, "I think we should name the post office after Janet." And Verna has brought this to my attention. I said, "I'm all in." I said, I think it's a fantastic idea. However, you've got some homework to do. We've got to have support from the community. Aaron said, "I'll get it." And it was probably a day later when the letters started coming in. And the letters poured into my office. I've got a stack of letters this high from folks in the community explaining why they supported naming this post office after the person we're here today to honor. So with those letters, I drafted the legislation, I introduced it, and there's a rule in the House of Representatives. In order to name a post office, you have to have every member of Congress from that state co-author the bill. Now, if you're from Montana, there's only one member of Congress, so it's a pretty easy lift. But we got 53 in California. So I went to each member and explained who Janet was, why we need to name this post office, and asked them to sign that bill. And it didn't take long. Everybody recognized her contribution right away, signed that bill. We passed it out of the House. Senators Feinstein and Harris did their good work on the Senate side, and the bill became law. And we're here today. We're here today to celebrate her legacy by naming this post office. But as important, we're here today to put a statement on the wall on this post office stating that Janet Capella was a wonderful person who did so much for our community, and to set an example for other people in our community to follow. Thank you for being here and being part of that.